You have greatness within you. You are powerful. You are limitless. You are strong. You are courageous. You are love. Welcome to the Reconnect to Your Greatness podcast. Enjoy. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back for another episode of Reconnect to Your Greatness. I am super excited to have with us today Charmaine Husum. Charmaine, hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, Ryan. Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, it's very nice to share this space with you. And, I am super excited because I feel like there's a lot of different ways our conversation could go today. And I hope that whichever way we take them, it helps to facilitate and provide healing in other people's lives. So thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of the podcast.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm going to read just a brief introduction about Charmaine to the listeners and the viewers. So Charmaine is an artist, a certified art therapist, a registered therapeutic counselor, and a Kundalini yoga and meditation teacher. At her art therapy and counseling practice, Center of the Heart, she sees clients online and in person and the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy. Now, Charmaine, I'm going to kick it over to you here so that you can share some of the Native American tribes that you work with.
Yeah, I'm honored and privileged to live and work on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, which include the Siksika, the Kainai, and the Piikani peoples, also the Tsuut'ina, the Nakota nations, and the the Métis people of Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Okay. Charmaine has an international reputation as an artist, having worked in film and television, and facilitates retreats in Canada, Hawaii, Mexico, and abroad for personal growth and development. The areas that she specializes in are working with trauma, symptoms of PTSD, complex PTSD, autism, depression, anxiety, eating disorders, suicidality, addiction, and other mental health symptoms. Having worked for years with plant medicines and psychedelics for healing, she has created a trauma-informed online program to support integration after psychedelic experiences, which incorporates art therapy, dream work, sacred geometry, Kundalini meditation, yoga, somatic processes, and neuroplasticity using a harm reduction lens. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to put the links to Charmaine's practice, as well as her online courses and her Etsy store below in the description. So you'll be able to check those out. But Charmaine, wow, I'm hearing that you do healing via a lot of different modalities.
Yes. There's been a lot of different modalities that have supported me throughout the years that I've learned to work. And so, I share those with the people I work with because I know of their effectiveness.
Amazing. Well, hey, maybe that's a good place to start out. I really love the vulnerability on your website. You say, I'm not separate from what I do. I'm familiar with trauma and it has moved through my life as well. And I really respect the vulnerability of you to share that. And maybe to whatever extent you're comfortable, you can share with the listeners and the viewers a little bit about maybe your past and kind of how you got on this journey of being a healer.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Yeah, it's true. I'm not separate from the work I do. The reason I do the work I do with others is because I too have walked that road and worked through these processes towards healing. And I do find healing to be a cyclical process, right? But more of a spiral where we're continuously moving up. But definitely, I feel that trauma lives in the body. So the somatic work I do, the yoga and meditation, right? And as well as the cathartic experience of using art therapy really helps to move it from the body. My own story kind of follows a path of healing through art, especially. I was always an artist. Since 10 years old, I started drawing portraits. So which I see now was a way to support me during a very difficult time in life. And as a teenager, I would write poetry daily. I think I've got like maybe over 100 books of poetry, just journals. That was my go-to for sure.
Wow.
Yeah. But I had left home at 14. I was in the foster system. There was a lot of different abuses that happened for myself growing up. And so it's often that I know I speak on my website about turning surviving into thriving, right? And I see that with people all the time, that we're just trying to keep up, just trying to get through life. And so what I love is that what's really helped me too and supported me, I actually wrote my thesis on this, was Judith Herman's 3 stages of trauma therapy, and Bessel van der Kolk talks about that too. And so moving from the beginning stage of finding safety, and oftentimes that's the stage we stay in for forever, right? Especially with a traumatic past, or PTSD, or complex trauma as well. And then moving into the healing, the recounting, remembering, or making sense of, even if it's not speaking about what's happened. But then that thriving part is reconnecting with the world and finding a way to use those experiences that have been painful and difficult, and noticing kind of that diamond that's been formed with the pressures of life. So I feel like I'm very honored to do the work I do with people and to hold that space. It's just, I'm amazed all the time. I'm blown away at the resiliency of humans, right? What we can go through, how we can heal, and what we can become.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, now the listeners and the viewers are starting to understand why I wanted to invite you on the show. Thriving and reconnecting, right? And thriving and reconnecting to your greatness. So we may say the message with a little bit of a different viewpoint, but I think underlying it's the same. It's that, we all have greatness within us. We all deserve to thrive, right?
We all deserve to thrive. Yeah. Often it's difficult to find that deserving feeling within, right? When that's never been shown to us, when we haven't been taught that from a young age, that we deserve greatness, right? It can be a tricky one to find. So I do find that the modalities I work with help people to uncover that. What's especially important to me in the work is that I'm person-centered, I'm client-led, I follow the client. So there's no hierarchy in the work that we do. I believe in that greatness within everyone. And so it's just a matter of bringing that out.
Right.
So, yeah.
Awesome. So, hey, the first thing you said, and obviously you and I find this in our work, is the just finding safety, right? Like that, oh my God, especially with everything we've come out of in the past 2.5 years, right? It's just like just trying to find a place to relax, to be able to take a breath, but at a deeper level, really feel safe. And so, maybe you could briefly describe to the listeners and the viewers what that might look like for them as they're trying to find safety. What would be some emotional, mental, physical patterns that might show up for somebody who's trying to find safety?
That's a great question, because we speak about this, wanting to have safety or find safety, but to actually experience it or understand it when it's happening in the body, especially if we've never had it, can be so foreign. And often what happens is not feeling safe becomes the norm. And so moving into a safe place can feel more dangerous. So we really have to titrate sometimes how we get there. I love using breath work for that, and just somatic work practices by becoming aware of the body, becoming aware of the breath in the body. I use a lot of psychoeducation too with people. I find that effective when people actually, when they can see and understand what's happening in their brain and happening in their body and their nervous system. So I often speak about the nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system, which is what's aroused when we're not feeling safe, right? Because our body's so smart. It's saying, let's survive. We have to survive. When we're in that state for too long, it's exhausting. on the body. So what I'll do with people is speak about the parasympathetic nervous system and share different ways that we can get there. And in the moment too, just identifying the really subtle body sensations that are happening when the parasympathetic nervous system's engaged. And moving from there. And then I'll invite them to make art about it too, often, right? To create, what does safety look like? Like, let's make a picture of it, put it on the wall, because we may be going into some things that are a lot darker and deeper and painful. So.
Sure, sure. So what I hear you saying, Charmaine, is, hey, this even safety can be scary if we're so used to feeling unsafe. Wow, like that's really powerful.
Yeah, the same goes for abusive relationships, right? Sometimes if that's all we've known, then that's what we're going to go to, because that feels safe in a way, or it feels familiar.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you start out and we're doing some of this somatic work, we're psychoeducation, and what that means for the listeners and the viewers that may not be familiar, we're teaching, right? In a simple, fun as maybe it can be, but practical way of kind of explaining the mind-body connection, the nervous system. And then you bring in art therapy, which is something that I think is so beautiful and perhaps not used widely as it has an opportunity to maybe be used. So I'd love for you, Charmaine, to speak a little bit about, how can art therapy help individuals, and maybe how they can kind of start to do it a little bit on their own, like how you started out.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is, when we're speaking about art therapy, there's different types of art therapy in a way. There's art, making art, which is therapeutic. And then there's art therapy, which is a practice that is delivered or facilitated by a professional, with postgraduate studies in art therapy. And there's a specific process that happens within those sessions, within art therapy sessions. But absolutely anyone can engage in art and enjoy the healing that may bring them, right? Because when we're working with art therapy, or when we're just coloring or making art, we're actually integrating the right and left hemisphere of the brain, activating the corpus callosum in the middle of the brain. So both sides are talking to each other. In our society, we tend to be more left brain, right? We're like linear and logical and thinking, and we want it done, and we're running out of time, and looking at the likes on our social media. Where when we move into right brain, we're feeling more, we're creating more. It's more of a circular way of thinking rather than so linear. And so one of the benefits of art therapy is actually integrating, and art as therapy is integrating the two hemispheres of the brain, which also engages the parasympathetic nervous system, and has so many healing benefits for mental health. Also, with art therapy, there's different ways of doing it as an art therapist. And so what I often do, the way I start with people, is to work spontaneously. And so I'll start with a meditation. So they begin feeling into the body, and then allowing the body or the heart center or the intuition, that sense of self, to create. So, and I'll name that often when we create, we move into our head and we're thinking, oh, what should I make? What should it look like? So I invite them with the breath to bring it back into the body, creating from that place. What ends up happening is people create unconsciously. So what is allowed to come forward are unconscious pieces inside. So when we're doing art therapy in that way, what happens is when someone comes into therapy, a talk therapy, and I do counseling too, we talk as well, but when they come in, sometimes people don't know what's really on their mind, what's really underneath the pieces. So when we're using art in an unconscious way, we're actually able to bring things forward that can then be expanded on. And it's also my belief that our body protects us, or unconscious protects us. So whatever comes up is meant to come up because the person can hold that and handle that. Right. So yeah, from that place, then we will expand on that. We'll talk about it. And what happens is there's some separation from the issue. So rather than like, say, me talking from what's really hurting me in feeling inside of me, now it's outside of me. And there's a better perspective. We're also able to change the art if we want. If that image is representing something that we would like to shift, we can actually do it by changing the art. So yeah, there's many different ways of working with it. There's also many different art directives. So if I'm working with someone with something specific that we want to look at, then I'll give a specific directive that we're doing. Or sometimes it's uncomfortable for people to work unconsciously or spontaneously, I mean. So then I'll give a directive to just help warm them up.
Wow. Wow. I had a feeling I was going to get excited and amped up. And so I'm trying to kind of keep myself reserved here. But I'm excited, not only because of how powerful this information is for the listeners and the viewers, right? But just as two therapists and counselors and healers having a conversation, I get so excited. So and I'm so happy that we get to spend some time here at Art Therapy. You know, whether it's art therapy, whether it's EMDR, whether it's talk therapy, whether it's hypnosis, like whatever it is, it's like my mission and your mission, right? Is just like, hey, we're all different, we're all unique, and we all have different ways that we can hold this space for people to allow that trauma to come up. And what may feel safe for one person may not resonate for another person. And so that's where I see art therapy as just being such a beautiful modality through which, like you said, the trauma can come up and can come out.
Yeah, it's so true. There's so many amazing healing modalities out there, and not one works for everybody. So yeah, I do find the clients I see when I use art therapy, it's I notice it's especially helpful when people are sometimes unable to speak about what's happened or unaware of all the complexities and levels.
Sure. Okay, Charmaine. So, you know, this idea of kind of getting out these feelings, these thoughts, the trauma and the emotions, and being able to whatever extent the individual feels comfortable, start to kind of put them down, you know, as the artwork and put them down on whatever, you know, platform it is that they're doing the art on, right? That's incredibly powerful for the individual, I would imagine, to realize, hey, this pain, or at least a part of it, is no longer in me, and here it is now out on this piece of paper. I'd imagine that's incredibly therapeutic. Can you share with the listeners kind of how that all works? Where is the healing there? And then this idea of, now that we have it out, we can do what we want with it. This is so astounding to me.
Yeah. So yeah, once the art is made, right? Once that pain, those feelings are expressed with materials on the paper. And we're also, as one is creating, I'm inviting them to stay in the present moment, right? To really allow the feelings to move from the body onto the paper. And then we have some distance. And so what I would what we look at next after we process the art and speak about it would be to transform the art, or I would ask, what would you like to do with it now? So that opens up the possibility of creating some control. And often it's been control that's been, or choice that's been taken away when someone has experienced trauma. So it's especially important in that moment to then invite that control. What would you like this image to look like? How can we alter this or change this? Does it need to be changed? And oftentimes someone's not ready for that yet, right? So what I invite then is, what are we going to do with the art now, right? After it's finished, once we finish session, or once we finish making the art, part of the process is what we do with the artwork afterwards, how we either dispose of it or contain it. So if it's a resource image, I'll invite someone to take it and put it on their wall as a reminder of the resourcefulness inside them that has come in, what was inside them and is now being shown outside of them. Or if it's an image that represents something very painful, how may they want to dispose of it or change it? what we often do, what often happens is people may tear the artwork up and create something new from it. Or another piece, I love ceremonies and rituals. So what I'll invite people to do is maybe burn it. Maybe we burn all the arts at the end of, say, a group of sessions that we've had together. And, really feel that process of allowing those feelings, those experiences that have been lodged within to now be burnt with, the powerful element of fire, and watching that smoke go up. And then taking those ashes and burying them. And so there's many different things that people can do with the art afterwards, but I find that is just as important in the process.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is releasing, right? And you've got it released out of you, at least to some extent, right? And then there can be an additional process of releasing, whether that's tearing it up, whether that's burning it, right? Or even kind of putting a new meaning to it, or a different meaning to it when we edit it.
Yes, absolutely. And again, right, there's control and choice is being offered into something that before had taken over the body, taken over the mind, maybe, right? That had more control over one than one had control over it. So it's a huge therapeutic process that's happening in that moment of what we're doing with the art after it's on the paper.
Wow. How often do we hear individuals, it doesn't even have to be within the clinical setting, right? Family members, friends, even ourselves, right? How often do we hear people say, well, I know I shouldn't have done that, or I didn't want to do that, but I just couldn't control myself. And it's like that trauma, that pain was the fundamental root cause of the control of the non-serving behavior. And now here you're saying, no, it's your art. You get to have control. You get to give the meaning or do whatever it is that you want to do with it. And to me, what I hear you saying is you're giving an opportunity for people to take back control of their lives, of their being, of their essence. That is just so beautiful to me.
Yeah, it's a powerful modality. It amazes me. That's why I do it, right? I love the work I do. I feel really blessed to be an art therapist and share that with the world.
Yeah, that is just absolutely amazing. So let's stick with energy, because I love when we get to have these conversations about energy, right? So you were talking about the ashes, and maybe even there's this energy sense of tearing the artwork up, right? And let's get into now some of the Kundalini meditation that you do, and maybe some of the sacred geometry. Is there a meeting ground where this starts to come together here?
Yeah, interestingly enough, I find for me personally, my own meeting ground is neuroplasticity and neuroscience, and all this amazing new research that's been done on how our brain actually heals. Can heal itself, right? I grew up learning that when you sneeze, you lose brain cells. When you do drugs, you lose brain cells. There's all these things you do throughout life that eventually it's not going to look so good. And now we realize, no, that's not actually true. Our brain can regenerate. What I find is through Kundalini yoga, or not just Kundalini yoga, because there's so many different yoga modalities that are amazing, and meditations that are amazing. But through these meditations and through especially sacred geometry, we are rerouting our neural pathways, and also with psychedelics, right? We're rerouting our neural pathways to create different outcomes in life. And so I work a lot with sacred geometry and creating my own images that turn into almost a meditation in themselves. And I am very sensitive to the sensations within, right? I work somatically. And it's just amazing to feel within me the shifts that are happening when I'm creating. And also just to allow that process, right? Speaking of energy, allowing that process of that inner self, that inner wisdom. I often describe it, depending on who I'm working with and their worldview, but for me, I describe it as that piece of soul, that piece within me that is beyond my physical form. So allowing that to speak and that to be expressed in the artwork. The art then feels, there's a charging to it. And I like I mentioned before, making art in art therapy isn't about making beautiful art, right? We're moving our feelings, but there's also something to be said about doing something that does feel beautiful, right? To create that sense of self-mastery. And I sense that and feel that when I work with sacred geometry, or when I teach the courses I teach on sacred geometry, building acceptance of when things don't feel perfect, but then also noticing how we can still make something beautiful when the lines don't line up perfectly.
Wow. Yes. Sometimes life's lines don't always line up perfectly, do they?
Yeah. And
So
what a
you
gift.
also mentioned that you, of course, you're an international artist, right? And you've worked in the film and television. I'm really interested. This is kind of more personal, maybe more so than therapeutic. But so, how was this received, or did you have to kind of maybe implicitly integrate some of your work there? With the art therapy, or maybe the sacred geometry, which I'd imagine was always inside of you and inspiring you, then into the film and television industry. How did those two kind of link up or meet?
Well, it's interesting the way they've met up. They're quite separate, actually, right?
Yeah.
I was a scenic artist in the film and television industry, and a paint coordinator. It was an industry I worked in for many years. And throughout, the last 10 years have kind of been moving out of that and then back into that, and also doing my work as an art therapist, and then internationally, just sharing my art. I did a lot of work in Mexico, lived in Mexico for years, working with kids and painting murals and signs and that kind of thing. So I guess where they, I would say it's more quite separate. The work that I've done in film and television hasn't been necessarily connected to art therapy. Although it definitely taught me a lot of lessons as an artist in the world when we create art. And this would be separate from being an art therapist or even using art therapy. But as an artist, we can often get caught up in the egoic parts of it and that need for it to represent us. And that's okay. But in working in film and television, or just working for someone else, I learned quickly that I needed to let that go, and I needed to recognize that I'm just a vessel. I'm just allowing the energy to move through me into whatever I'm making. And what that created is some extra safety for me, for my own ego. If I was told they didn't like it, I would be like, wow, whatever. It was just energy moving through me. I'm just a vessel. So we'll try it again. So it really did help support me in the work I did on films and TV shows that are shown around the world. So
Wow. Yeah, there's something freeing about that, right?
yeah. Oh yeah. Completely freeing, because it can be a very stressful industry where you don't want to make a mistake, right? And so it's definitely, I've noticed within my career, right? And I've done a lot of mural work and stuff in different places. When I feel too involved in the process, when I feel like it's me and it's my art, I get in the way. And when I'm able to really allow myself to leave and just honor that connection to spirit in a way, or that connection to energy moving through me, right? This is a gift I've been given. It's been a gift that's helped heal me as well. When I'm able to become that vessel, like a paintbrush, and just have that move through me, I'm amazed at what it's like magic when the art is made from that place, rather than coming from a place that feels like it's mine, it's me. I'm this creator of this. I don't actually believe that for myself.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And in what ways do you find that when people come to art therapy for the first time and maybe they're starting to work with you, do you find that maybe that kind of egoic programming, maybe even some of the trauma programming of the past will kind of try and fight its way in and maybe keep some of the trauma blocked and keep some of it locked in there? I'd assume maybe that's where some of the breath work helps to come in, to push the ego out of the way so that the soul can express itself.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I would identify that as being a protector too, right? If there's something blocking that energy from moving. And so just working with that, right? And then I might move into like more of a internal family systems kind of lens, and then speak about that protector, try to get to know it a little bit, know what it's protecting, and that's a big job. And maybe we'll make art about that blockage then, so that blockage can now speak, because often that's what it is, right? These protector parts haven't been able to have a voice, and so allowing some space for that to happen.
We're so linked up. Internal family systems was the first thing that came to my mind when you said the protector. Yeah. Okay, so let's start to wrap this up. I do want to touch on two quick things, and that is in the Pacific Northwest of the United States and in Canada. I'm somewhat familiar with British Columbia, a little bit less with Alberta, but there is a large Native American population. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to speak a little bit about, maybe how we can help to increase the mental health resources that are available to this group of people, which from everything that I've been able to research is really underserved, particularly when it comes to mental health. Could you maybe speak to that, Charmaine?
You know what comes up for me when you ask that would be is to be of service, right? To be open to educate ourselves too. I'm finding it's so important to learn more how we can support the indigenous people of our communities, of our country, right? Of the regions we're from. But really, I feel like that question is best asked from someone who is indigenous, right? What will support them? Because different things support different people too, right? So it's always what I've seen happen is that people's rights have been like beyond violated. It's horrific how indigenous people have been treated in Canada and the States, all over the world. And so I think what's important is to ask that question individually, right, to what one needs. But for me, I feel what's really important in my practice, and because I work with trauma and intergenerational trauma, right, epigenetics, right, there's so many things coming up right now that we have tools, we have more languages and understandings where we can hold space and help people. But what I find is especially important is to learn how I can support someone in a way that doesn't re-traumatize as well, right? Because as a Caucasian woman, I haven't had those same experiences. Maybe, I've had intergenerational trauma, and there are parts of my life that might be similar, but I've been privileged in a way that in order for me to really hold space for others, is I need to understand, I need to educate myself, sit with people in circle, learn more about the rituals and ceremonies, the amazing culture and wisdom, is how I've worked with it, and I'm always working with it, right? And so.
Yeah. That's beautifully said. The world would be a better place if we approach conversations with help me to understand what it's like to be you and to have some of your experience. We'll never be able to fully understand because we didn't live it, but even the attempt of the question of help me to understand, right? Super powerful. So as we start to bring it in here, because you and I could probably go on for an extended period of time, as we start to bring it in, This online courses, I think, is so powerful. It allows you to help people kind of outside of the one-on-one work that you do. Share with the listeners and the viewers a little bit about your online courses, how they can, connect, get enrolled, and a little bit about what problems they solve for people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. My online courses can be found at courses.centeroftheheart.com, and center is spelt CENTRE, the British or Canadian version. One of the courses that I've been working on for actually quite a few years is the one on psychedelic integration. And so what I was noticing and holding space for people in circle after ceremonies using plant medicines was a lot of people were coming back to the medicine and weren't actually taking that wisdom back into their life. And although psychedelics are not addictive, looking for a heightened experience is. And so that's why I created the psychedelic integration program. That's the main course on my Teachable page right now. There's many within that. I've kind of just packaged them all together with the psychedelic integration program. So it's a 9-module program that follows the 3 stages of trauma healing that I mentioned that Judith Herman and Bessel van der Kolk follow and support. And it incorporates, art therapy, obviously, sacred geometry, yoga, meditation, and dream work. So yeah, there's many parts to it. It's been a labor of love. I had a close friend die after, or take his life after 10 days into a 20-day ceremony in Peru. And that especially just lit that fire under me saying, no, we need this. We need healing comes from within. There's medicines, and I honor these medicines and I honor the indigenous cultures that have been holding this wisdom of these medicines for so many years. But I do believe that the medicine awakens pieces within us, and it's the work we do afterwards where we create the healing, and that's why it becomes long lasting and a part of our life. So
yeah, I think that's really beautiful that you've created this resource for individuals. I think it's very needed. I also think that you're right where you need to be, and also so far ahead, because I think it's an area that's really growing, right? The psychedelic in the United States. I think that MDMA and psilocybin are, on track relatively soon, government-wise, right? Relatively soon, to be officially allowed to be kind of integrated in as an accepted form of therapy. And I think you're absolutely right. There's so much more of the healing that goes on afterwards. It's not just what happens in the session. Would you say that's fair?
Absolutely. Yeah, and you're right. We're in a psychedelic revolution, right? But things are different this time with this revolution where these medicines are, the proper protocols are being put into place. The tests are being done with how these medicines can be used for healing. So although psychedelics can open up consciousness and, have been used recreationally for years, what we're speaking about is using psychedelics for healing, right? So, and what's being shown and proven is that using these medicines help heal trauma. They've helped heal my trauma, right? So, although I'm not an advocate for anything illegal, absolutely, but I am an advocate for more research being done so that people can access healing that doesn't rely on taking a pill or, for the rest of their lives, that just numbs the pain, something that opens things up, but especially important. Once those pieces have been opened up, the work needs to be done. The real work starts, which is what I would call integration. And I also feel that with these psychedelic experiences, just like trauma lives in our body, so does well-being. So what we can do is then continuously access those experiences, the psychedelic experiences, the awakening after those ceremonies, or however the experience has happened, right? And accessing those positive memories to really have them integrate into our body, into our life, and in a way too that's not too disruptive. What I see often is people might go to South America and have a retreat there using, you know, plant medicines, and then come back home and need to change everything, like quit their job, leave the family. You know, there's no, these medicines have been used for so many years in indigenous cultures, and those cultures also had a community to hold people in. We don't necessarily have that. There's a big stigma still on using psychedelics and plant medicines at times for healing. And so I'm just so grateful that we're in this revolution and finding new ways to help people.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're certainly a part of that for sure, and I think it's super amazing. So, as we bring the plane in for a landing here, what would you like to any last little bit that you'd like to share with the listeners and the viewers, and also how can they get in touch with you if they're interested in your art or doing art therapy with you? How can they connect with you, Charmaine?
Yeah. Well, a way to connect with me, the best way would be to go to my website, which is centeroftheheart.com, spelled CENTRE, not ER. And yeah, send me a message. There's links there on my website to how to, I offer free 20-minute sessions, not sessions, but like a discovery call where we could just get to know each other if people need more information about the work I do. And yeah, they can find me there. You can also find me by going to courses.centeroftheheart.com for some of the online self-paced courses I teach. And yeah, that's, I'm on social media too, right? I'm on Instagram on Center of the Heart, and Facebook with Center of the Heart. So yeah, I also often I'll do webinars and put free webinars up on neuroplasticity and art therapy, or mindfulness and neuroplasticity, which are areas I'm really interested in, and put them up on social media. So there's many ways to get in touch.
Awesome.
If anyone's interested in checking out some of my art too, that's helped heal me, and that supports me and the work I do to support others, I have a Etsy page, which is just at Charmaine Husum Art. So
okay, cool. Well, we'll list all of the links below. Anybody that's listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube, we'll list all those links below, as well as on iTunes. Charmaine, wow. I mean, I'm just so excited and so passionate about our conversation. I could keep it going, but I want to be respectful of your time. So thank you so much for being vulnerable, for sharing your story, and for just showing up so beautifully and sharing, you know, your healing and your information and your education. It was so valuable. So thank you so much for your time.
thank you, Brian. It's such a pleasure to be here and to share with your listeners. Yeah, I send out blessings to all of you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.